Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ashley Banks. I'm the SVP of Revenue over at Group Black, but I'm also the co-creator of She's Good for Real, which is a new health and wellness platform dedicated for women of color. So it's for us, by us, in partnership with Everyday Health. I'm excited because last year we were talking about this. We were talking about creating this, and I had so much hope. And this project has come out of hope that we can change health disparities. One article at a time, one resource at a time. So thank you so, so much to our sponsors, Huggies, and our team over at Kenview for really making this happen and bringing it to life. I am eternally grateful. I'm so excited to talk about this panel because in today's society, finding hope is so hard. So I'm just gonna jump in and ask a few questions. So for everyone here, what personal experiences have shaped your understanding of hope and the resilience of us being Black women?
I think the way we wake up every day.
I mean,
Like, quite honestly, I know that as a Black woman in kind of the world of C-suite and the executive world, it is tough. There's so many things that we're given messages, and there's mixed messages, and we're expected to comport ourselves in a way as if we don't have feelings. But what gives me hope is seeing all of these incredible minds out here that we find ourselves in all of these spaces, and we see each other, and it's a big smile, and we know that there's support. Even if we don't cross paths within our offices, we know that there is a cross-section of support. So that gives me tremendous hope.
I think for me, my story is just a little bit different. Ashley, you know, we've talked about this. So in 2016, I was just on a fast-track career path, and 4 days after Christmas, my fiance at the time, father of my 2 children, was murdered. And I was on break, you know, we have our Christmas break. And I just had to deal with that. I was afraid at the time to even tell my boss what was going on. I had 2 children under the age of 6. My daughter was 5. My son was 1.5 years. And I just immediately, as a mother, all the parents out here, all the moms know, like, you go into survival mode, right?
Yes.
So your first and only thought is, what's gonna happen to my children? How am I gonna survive? I'm going from a 2-income household to now being a single mother with 2 children. And so I had to be vulnerable. I know in the last panel, all the panelists shared their vulnerabilities. And so for me, I really just had to call my managing director, our CEO, and really just explain the situation. Sometimes when you think of a Black man and you hear gun violence, you automatically think that he's the aggressor, right? But not really understanding that he was just coming home to his family. And after that, I had to really lean in for support from a company that I only joined 3 months prior. They didn't know my work ethic. They didn't know the ins and outs of myself and who I was as a human. I just had to really just go on faith. And, you know, and by the grace of God, I'm based in faith. So by the grace of God, I made it through. And after that, and I saw the outpour of love and support that I received. And I made a promise to myself that after I get myself through this, after tons of therapy, get my children through this, that I myself will then be the hope for someone else. And I'm happy to say that I've done that, and I've kept true to that. And I continue to just support. I'm a girl's girl. I've always been a girl's girl.
this is true.
You know, I champion women. Some of my closest girlfriends are friends that I've known from 3rd grade. I'm a Caribbean woman, so I've been around strong women all my life. And I promised myself that I would do the same for those.
Thank you.
And excuse my voice, club quarantine last night was a little turned, so if I'm a little raspy, I apologize. It's Ashley's fault. Yes.
So for Yara and Keri, the title of your new podcast is The Optimist Project. Can you talk about why you both felt the need to create this project?
Yeah, I'd have to say, I mean, when we were discussing it, it really was a selfish endeavor because
it was one of those things, just so everybody knows, the core concept is to look at and talk to change makers cross industry, regardless of field, about why they get up in the morning, why they do their work, what are the big, small, little tiny things that keep them going every day. And it really came from, one, our own practice of figuring out what fills us up and how we're gonna sustain and maintain a certain quality of life. And it came from wanting to be in community and knowing how much we're filled up by being in community and wanting to make that accessible. So many life-changing moments have happened around our community in these small, intimate spaces like this. And I think so many times we'd walk away from those moments being like, we know how many people would benefit from hearing what we heard, feeling that warmth that we felt, hearing those guiding words that we heard. And so we were just really excited to be able to put together a guest list and a conversation so that we could continue to share the pivotal moments that have really shaped our journey and have given us those steps forward to keep pushing.
And I think also so many people in our communities are doing the hard work.
Yes.
But they also have foundational pieces of joy and practice that I think there's so much that we could glean from. You know, sometimes it's nerve-wracking to figure out how we should show up in our community. Are we doing enough? And I think it's great to hear, like Yara was saying, a cross-section of voices to say, well, this is how I show up, and this is what feels good, and this is how I can show up. And so, like you're saying, we've been in such exclusive rooms, but we really feel like those rooms should be inclusive. So that was really kind of one of our many late-night talks, like, how do we share this with everybody?
Yes.
And that was really the core of our idea.
So going into some of those societal structures, how do you feel like those structures and cultural expectations are really impacting mental health and the well-being of Black women? Because I know we're at the crux of this partnership.
I mean, I think we just need to normalize therapy, right? I think I come from, as I said, I'm a Caribbean woman, and in my country, I don't even think there's a therapist. I don't even think there's one in the entire country, because we're just taught, you don't talk about, like Denisha said, you don't take your inside problems outside, right? And we hold things in. And I was like that for a very long time until I had to go through trauma and really see an actual therapist, take my daughter to a therapist, which we both go to twice a month, every other week. You know, I love my therapist, and even if I have nothing to talk about in that moment, I can just sit there and just cry, or just sit there and be silent and just be at peace for a moment. So I think for Black women, we use the term strong Black women, and we're expected to always be strong. We're expected to always just get it done, and I don't think that we allow ourselves empathy, right? And I don't think that society sees us as women that are not strong, and for us to just say, I'm not okay.
And that's why we talk about this, and She's Good for Real. We are 50% less likely to seek out treatment for our mental wellness. And so it is incredibly important that we are taking care of ourselves, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So going back into hope and to the Optimist Project, how are you incorporating messages of hope and resilience into your work and into your public platforms? I know that it's at its core all about hope and resilience, but do you have any examples?
Yeah, well, I feel like the reason the Optimist Project became such a natural extension of what we aim to do in our work is because we like to center and anchor joy in everything we do. I don't know if this is working.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, thank you. But I think it was the idea of centering resilience really out of necessity. I think, just as is being beautifully discussed, there's a certain heaviness that you carry in the world as a Black woman that goes under-acknowledged. There's an expectation that you can maintain and sustain and function at such a high level. And there's a certain level of just general communal grief that we don't get to experience publicly. I know, being Black and Iranian, this has been a fascinating time of realizing you can walk into a room and know who carries your grief with you and who gets to just exist. And so much of our work really truly comes from sitting together and being in conversation about what type of life we want to lead. And even, I think, in the last year in particular, there's been such a focus on how we will insist on being well, because the amount of times we allowed ourselves to be unwell for the sake of work and for the sake of pushing forward. And that shift has been so instrumental. It's been really inspiring. I think it's been reinvigorating. I'm speaking for both of us, but speaking for me, it's been so reinvigorating because it brings back even the joy of why we work.
Yeah, and so many times, like, you know, we straddle the worlds of television, film, and brand work. And we're always in conversation about, we carry two bars of expectation. We carry the community bar of black folks, like, oh, we're here and we want to make sure that the door stays open for the rest of our community. And then the bar that everybody else is operating on. And we were just in
Are you looking
Venice.
around like...
We were just in Venice, and, you know, we're standing somewhere and we're early, stressed. We waited 30, 40 minutes for the rest of the crew, and I was like, lower the bar, lower the bar. Because if you think about it, when we're in meetings and we're, you know, there's so many things, the pressures we put on ourselves. I think because the outcome is going to be the outcome, let's input a little less. We already know that we work from a space of excellence. That's just what we know. So let's just, you know, be a little more compassionate with one another, you know, and on ourselves. But we come to work and we're working overtime. Let's just work 8 hours. How about that? And let's see what the output looks like. But I think so much is not discussed with our peers that are dominant culture. They don't know just how hard we're working to maintain, just how many microaggressions, you know, that we experience on the daily. There's one that I can think of immediately from 2.5 years ago that just grinds my, and I have to let it go because it's bothering me. It didn't bother them when they said it, and, you know, they set me up for perceived failure, but I did close the loop and call her and say, this is how black women lose their careers. Don't do that. Because I figured, you know, she's gonna risk it, let me risk it. Let me just let her know how I feel and how my community feels. Anyway, a lot of that is because I was holding a bar so high for myself. Regardless of what the outcome was gonna be, I already know that I perform at a level of excellence, so let's drop the pressure on ourselves.
I always say you have to give yourself grace. So that actually is a really good segue into some of the work that Rejon, you have been doing. So I know that one of the major goals of your work is to create change within agency life, especially for black women. So thank you so much for that. Can you talk about how black women can leverage professional networks and collective support to navigate some of these career challenges, especially in that agency atmosphere?
Yeah, so a lot of the work that we do is not only just within Publicis, but it's also external with a lot of our diverse-owned media partners. And I'll answer your question in 3 parts. I think first, I'm going to call out a few folks in this audience, so hopefully they're not upset with me. But under the leadership, the amazing leadership of Geraldine White, who's in this audience right now, we have 18 BRGs in Publicis Group. So however you feel to identify yourself, there's a space for you. We also have a career development program that I was honored to be a part of in 2022 after 4 months into my role. And our group chat is still going. So I think it's just kind of finding your tribe, right? I've never worked for a person of color ever in the many agencies I've worked for. I'm blessed now to work for an amazing woman of color, Lisa Torres. And when I first started at Publicis, Lisa had a 30, 60, 90 mapped out for me. With that, it was like, this is where you should be in 30 days, this is where you should be in 60 days, this is where you should be in 90 days. And outside of that, she also had individuals that I should be able to speak to and that I should connect with. One of those individuals, Denisha Lomax, happy birthday girl, was one of the women that Lisa told me, Rejon, you need to connect with her. And I'm an extroverted person, and I'll go up to anyone, say hello, chat, how are you? And Denisha's the same way, right? So we had a conversation. She's all the way in California, so this is over Teams. And I remember as it was yesterday, she said to me, if you need anything, call me, let me know. And I'm the person, if you tell me that, I'm gonna call you. So when I needed something, I reached out to her. I was like, hey, Dee, I would love to have you come to do a panel. It's only 30 minutes. Do you think that you can make it? And I kid you not, she flew in from San Francisco, she did the panel, and she flew out right then. And I think it's just that kind of sisterhood that we need to start to cultivate within each other. And this could be not a popular opinion, but I think for us as Black women in this industry, we tend to see the or, right? So it's like Ashley or Rejon, as opposed to seeing the and. Like there's enough space and room for all of us to thrive, and personally we're stronger together. So I would say in your agency, find your BRG, find your CDO or her next in command, find your tribe. Right, and then with that, go to industry events. Black Enterprise has their Black Women in Power Summit. There's Ad Color. There's so many different spaces and places that you can find your tribe and find people to connect with, but you have to be open, authentic, and genuine in order to really create and cultivate those relationships.
So I feel like there is this connected thread that each of you have really pulled together, and it relates to this next question, which is, how can the broader community better support Black women in their journeys towards mental and physical well-being? Because I know we are holding each other up and supporting each other, but how can the broader community be involved?
That's an interesting question, but I think it does go back to taking accountability for ourselves and taking care of ourselves. Because I think that's one thing that might be newer to a lot of our generations, the weekly therapy, the open conversation around it, which is an open conversation in our family and with our friend group. Because I noticed at work, I've had employees that'll say like, hey, I need from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. off every week. I don't know if we would have approached that beforehand. So, you know, I think having it as an open conversation amongst one another is the first big step to me.
I absolutely agree. And again, it goes back to giving yourself that grace. Yeah. You are a human being just as the other human beings in that corporation are around you. Yeah. And we should act as such.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Keri said, you know, giving ourselves that grace, I think for me, this is the first role and first company that I felt comfortable saying, hey, I'm a single mom of 2 and my children come first, as you said earlier, Dee. You know, so if school calls and I have to leave to get my kids, I'm gone. You know, and before I wasn't okay saying that, right? Because I would push through. I would call my mom or call my cousin or call my sister. Can you go pick up Kamara? Can you pick up Cam? Because I'm in a meeting that I can't leave. But I think the more that we allow ourselves that grace and that transparency, right, within our agency to say, hey, you know what, my priority is always going to be my family first and then my job. I think that really, as long as we begin to normalize that, that goes a very long way.
I agree. So we're getting to one of our last questions. How can media and marketing platforms amplify the voices and stories of Black women to foster a sense of hope? I know that you're doing that every single day with the Optimist Project. I know that you're doing it every single day with the Once and For All Coalition. And we aspire to, when She's Good for Real launches next month, to be able to provide that space for you as well. So how can we continue to use media and marketing to amplify our voices and stories?
Well, I think one thing that we continuously ask of our brand partners, of our network partners, is just seeing what stories they're okay platforming for Black women. And I think oftentimes what we're obsessed with is seeing slice of life, as we call it, of us existing in our day-to-day. It's beautiful to go onto your screen or to look at an ad where you see somebody just existing in their wholeness. And oftentimes what we've seen in the production space, when we pitch stories centering Black women, the stakes have to be so high for people to care or for people to invest. And it feels like the more we continue to invest in the more we continue to invest in just seeing us in our wholeness, there's only so much that can benefit from that. And I think oftentimes when you look at, just speaking from a television perspective, what's been beautiful to see is the switch where you used to see a woman of color in a story, and you used to have to make her so universal and so general, because the question was, how could anyone relate to her? And now what's been beautiful is to see the insistence on inversing that and say, no, let's lean into how specific she is as a person and realize in that specificity comes all of these connections that people will see between them. And I feel like that only has bettered our media landscape. It's only bettered our landscape. And I think when people see the bottom line, it's of benefit to everybody.
And I think in the brand space, it's feeling confident to share what's important for us. You know, we are in the global brand space, luxury brand space, and we bring our artists of color, they travel with us. I think, like so many people, we're not just opening a door for us. We're opening the door for 6 other people. And I think it's really important, once you're there, to be very vocal.
Yeah.
To say like, hey, I wanna help the brand. We know this is a numbers game. We're good at numbers. So we know that we're not here just to be cute and shiny on an ad, but this will open the door for so many of us. And then the other thing that we end up doing is we'll turn to our partners. Let's say we're working for a global digital company or a computer company. We're gonna call our friends like, yo, I saw you texted me and the bubble was green. I know a partner that has green bubbles. This is their budget. Reach out to them for this. You know, we share that information because we all tend to be recreating the wheel. We're doing so much work, but the universe continues to unfold for all of our desires.
Yeah.
So like we were saying, like it's not you or me, it's both of us.
Let's work together.
It's both of us.
Absolutely.
And I think the difference between networking and relationship equity, and relationship equity is what people of color are about. We're gonna meet each other. We don't know why we know each other. We don't know how we're gonna work together. We don't know if we'll work together,
Yeah.
but we're gonna help each other.
Yeah.
And from that relationship, there's going to be something that comes of it, whether it's a hug or a brand deal, or we're gonna work together on a television show. It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
So I think if we all really look forward to working with one another in any capacity, you know, that rising tide will lift all of our boats.
Yeah. And I think just, yeah. And just double tapping into what both you and Yara said, I think also on the media side of things, really like having authentic voices present, right? Like you can't expect someone else to tell the story of a black woman if there's no black woman present. So having black women at the helm of certain things, just like what you guys are doing with Seventh and Son, and you know, even Stacey King and Macro, just having black women at the helm to tell our own stories, it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. There's Cody. Yes, exactly. Stacey's right over there, for sure. Absolutely. And just, it makes a difference. It really honestly does for us to tell our own stories as opposed to
Just know you guys are trailblazers for so many of us.
100%.
Like
100%.
trailblazers.
100%. So yeah,
I love us.
I love
That
us
was so
too.
amazing. Everyone here was able to actually call out other black women who have been able to support them, and that is what this is all about.
Absolutely.
And we have to keep uplifting each other. We have to keep building spaces for each other. We have to keep seeing each other on the Quaset, giving each other the look, the hug, bigging up each other. We gotta continue it. I want to thank y'all so much for your time. Thank you, Yara. Thank you, Keri. Thank you, Rejon. I am so grateful. And thank you to the crowd for coming.
Before you guys get up, I'm not a black female, but I want to say one thing. Is that okay? I just want to say thank you to Yara, Keri, and Rejon for being advocate, partner, and supporter of this journey. But Ashley she's very humble, and
Very,
she won't.
too humble.
Maybe some days in meetings she's not. But I just want to say a couple of words about Ashley in this program specifically, because first of all, being probably top 5 senior black female leads in this space. I mean, I can only imagine what the rooms look like, and the conversation around I think that's a bigger piece, which is kind of our ethos, which is we're stronger together than we are apart. Adrian's proven that clearly on this beach. But more than just what she pioneers in terms of driving the revenue of the business, which is the engine of why we exist today. Yes, you can cry. I'm definitely good with that. I'm happy to be the person that made you do that. Either me or a spreadsheet, so one or the other. But the reality is she came with this concept, maybe it was a little under a year ago, in that range. Wow. And she said, this platform is important to me because I'm a black female, but I'm also a mom, and I'm also the unlock to the care for my entire family. And there's no platform that shows us, and by the way, I have my own personal story with first finding a black doctor and it transformed my life. She said, there is no access to me understanding the care that we deserve and that understand who we are. And she said, this platform is important. And she teamed up with another black female leader in the organization. And the very first structured deck we saw opened up with this slide. And this slide is a mom holding a black baby, and it says, imagine literally dying to become a mom. And when I saw that, I said, you know what? I fucks with you. Let's get this done. So anyway, I just want to say a big round of applause to Ashley for everything she's done for this organization. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you. All right, I'm done. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.